Okay guys, how you doing? Now yesterday I recorded a video. I haven't yet watched the footage, but it was all about being a grown-up content creator. And by grown-up or adult, I don't mean, or when I constantly said adult content creator, but I realized halfway through that adult content creator is of a maybe sexual term, but what I meant as an adult is a grown-up content creator talking about real life things, not porn. So I just wanted to clarify that now before we go on. So I'm going to be mixing today's video with yesterday's videos, so thus scene change and clothes change. But that was off the cuff, that video. I was just on my way to the gym and I thought of something that I really wanted or really had difficulty initially pushing through this barrier, and I thought, if you're grown up and you want to get into content creation, then you may be facing these same sort of issues. Don't know if you guys were hearing that, but the wind was blowing the blinds and they were rattling. Now kids, as I mentioned yesterday, kids really understand YouTube. They understand thumbnails and they understand how important titles are. They've grown up with it. Us old fogey, we've got to work it out. We need to understand it, and Netflix is a good resource in terms of their research. So their research goes along the lines of something like, people decide what to watch based on the title and thumbnail in about 2 seconds. So if you imagine in this day and age with the likes of TikToks, where you're just constantly scrolling content and it's feeding you things you want to watch, it understands you. Compare that to YouTube, where you choose what you want to watch. It's very difficult because you're gonna really have to stand out. So understanding that is a fundamental point for YouTubing. So what are the other issues of being a grown-up content creator? It's very strange holding a camera out and just talking into the camera. Oh hello, my name is Mo. Doesn't really make sense, does it? So I was gonna throw the camera, didn't you? Not that stupid. And then you have the whole process of editing. So if you're not an editor, you haven't been in any sort of digital design, you have to learn how to use editing software, you have to learn about layers, how you layer different footage on top of each other, how you cut it together, you need to learn about B-roll, you need to learn about a lot of things. So as a creator, I guess it becomes very complicated to learn these sort of things. But once you learn them, it becomes very easy. And once you start learning how to use shortcuts, I think that's when it's a real game changer, because the shortcuts and, you know, buying things like this is the DaVinci Resolve speed editor, just speeds up your workflow. Now I work on a few podcasts, and this thing gets me through 2 hours of footage a lot faster than I used to with just a keyboard and mouse. So it's just having little things like that. Lighting, 1, 2, 3 lights above me. I've got 2 lights over there behind the camera, and I've got loads of little lights, and that's just for in my office, in my conservatory. And I've got hundreds of lights for when I use shooting outside. Now I'm really lucky in the sense that I've always been a hobbyist filmmaker since a young age, and there's been a large portion of that time where I wasn't, and I'm very good at capturing other people, but when it came to being in front of the camera, I always looked at the screen, which is there. I'm looking at the screen now, so you can see clearly my eyes are just off center, but now I'm looking back at the lens. That's something you really have to learn, to look at the lens. And it's very almost off-putting having the screen next to you, because you just have the tendency to look at the screen, but you have to look at the lens. Now if you look at the lens, you're making eye contact with your viewer, and that just goes to build a connection. If I'm talking to you like this the whole time, you'd be like, where is this guy looking? I can't see what he's looking at. But when I look straight at you guys, that's when you know I'm talking to you and giving you information. Coffee. Still a bit hot. Coffee is probably one of the most important things as a grown-up. You got kids, you got work, you got all sorts of things to deal with while you're trying to grow a channel where the youngsters, all they have is time. Right, that was just my monitor turning off. So youngsters, all they have is time. They go to school, college, university, whatever it is, and in the evenings they will just work on their videos. And they'll shoot a video or two, edit it, put it out, no problem. They have no other responsibilities other than their schoolwork. Now as a grown-up, you have work. You have the work that you take home with you. You are tired. You have bills to pay. You have taxes to pay. You have a wife, husband, kids, dog, whatever it is. You have to support all these things. You may have a car to run, and your fuel and your road tax and your maintenance. A motorbike, again the same things. Whereas as a student, all you need is a camera and maybe a microphone to be able to record your videos. And you don't have to worry about paying all these bills. So having enough time to work, or being able to work part-time to have some spending money, and then spending the rest of your time between school and making videos, compared to working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then trying to do another 40 to 50 hours making videos, it's very hard. It's a killer, and you have to be dedicated to it, because if you're not dedicated to it, you're just gonna struggle. You're gonna say, I'm gonna put it off until tomorrow, I'm gonna put it off until tomorrow. Now I made a video yesterday, I haven't even looked at the footage, but I know there was a lot of content missing from that video. That's where I'm filling it in today's video. So it's very, I don't know how to put it. I guess it's very difficult. Time management. Time management's hard. When it comes to creating content as an adult, time management is very hard. You have to work out, if you have kids, you have to shoot either before they're awake, after they're awake. If you're like me and your office is inside a conservatory, you have to start early enough before the weather gets really hot, or late. You can't work too late into the night. I know some people like what's his name, Harris Heller. Harris Heller does a lot of streaming videos, and in his early days of YouTube especially, he used to be up until the late hours of the morning, or the early hours of the morning I should say, late hours of the night. And he's got no kids. I think he has one now actually, but at the time he didn't have any kids, just himself and his wife, and they're both content creators making content, and they could go to work all day and then go home and spend all night making videos and just get 4 or 5 hours sleep, and you're golden. But when you have kids, kids come home from school at 3, you feed them, you wash them, you read, you homework, you put them to bed. By that time you're tired, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. You've got no energy to go on. That's why coffee is your friend as a grown-up content creator. But don't get addicted to coffee. Very easy to do. Now let me tell you my biggest secret into how to make content as a grown-up content creator. I have a microphone, a camera and lenses with me at all times. And it's not the camera that I'm shooting on now. Well, actually it is, but I always have my mobile phone with me, and I have the microphone that I have connected into this camera with me at all times. Now I do have fancy microphones, and they have their purpose. Here I've got quite a bit of treatment. You can see some of the treatment here. I've got furniture, soft furnishings. I've got a couple of sofas in here, so it does dampen out the sound quite well. But when I first started shooting in here, there was a lot of reverb, a lot of echoes. It's a big glass room. I put blinds in, I've put furniture in, I put dampening materials in. I've got foam with the zigzags and egg carton foams, and it's made a huge difference for the audio quality in here. So now I can use this cheaper microphone. This microphone costs 10 times more than the one I have on the camera, and I needed that for the noise rejection. I mean, now today it's not raining, so I don't have to reject all the pitter-pattering of the rain on the roof, and with the rest of the treatment there's not really much reverb going on. So sound quality is a must when we come to talking about creating videos, and that is especially true with youngsters because they just don't like to wait for anything these days. Now I remember in the early days, well, back in my day, I remember in the early days of YouTube, you would have videos with such poor quality. Now YouTube does process and they do clean up the audio a little bit, but if you put a video out there with poor audio, chances are people are going to drop that. There is enough content on YouTube now that people are not going to suffer bleeding ears just to understand what you're trying to say. Back in the days, as I said, we used to have to sit through poor audio to get the content that we wanted. But now, with the availability of cheap mics, which I'm actually going to be doing a review on cheap mics. I'm going to be buying a whole bunch of mics from £2 to £50, and I'm going to review them and test them out against each other because I'm looking for the ultimate budget setup. But that's for another video. What else is there? What else is there to talk about? I'm really tired. $7:25 in the morning. 7:25 in the morning. And I'm making videos. I feel, actually, come to think of it, it's not bad. The lighting's not too bad. All natural lighting. I might do this more often until I get my new studio set up. See, this is what us grown-ups can do. We can afford to buy studios or rent studios to make our content until the content makes money, if we want to. Kids, they can't. They have to be really creative with how they shoot. They might not have a spare room. They might have to just make a setup in the corner of their bedroom. And tips are, you don't want to be this close. I mean, I can practically reach the camera and I can reach my background. You want more depth, as much depth as you can get, really. But I've only got 3 meters this way unless I go diagonal. But if I go diagonal, you're going to get the sofa, and the sound treatment's not going to be as good because it's just not set up for that way. Because usually I'm streaming here, so I have the camera there facing this way. But I am going to work on that side at some point. But that's going to be closer towards the winter when it cools down in here. But that's it for now. If you like the content, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Subscribe, do all of that good stuff. And on this channel we'll talk about film gear, camera gear, filmmaking, YouTubing, and at the moment my journey into this YouTube world.